Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode, of the Pop Marketing Podcast. I am still your host, Joe Cox, the Pop Marketer. And today we're going to talk about something that we don't talk about enough on the show, and that's like design and illustration, the power of a logo or a poster or a print of your favorite movie or TV show or video game, anything in pop culture, and why we're so fascinated with that kind of visualization of that. And who better, to have on the show to discuss this with me, because I know zero. If it was just me talking about this, it'd be a short conversation. But luckily we have Daniel Adoff, who is, the principal and chief strategist of Dyno Creative, which check out their website. It's really rad. I always say if you have a brand of any kind, the first place I go is kind of to the merch store. And there's already like 6 things I want to buy on the Dyno merch store, which are bargains right now. Bargains on that store. So, Daniel, welcome to the Pop Marketing Podcast. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm rock and rolling. And so, hey, I'm here in lovely Southern California, so it's hard to complain when we almost always have 72-degree weather.
No, it's hard to complain out there, and I am in the Midwest, so I have plenty to complain about all the time. It's either too hot or it's too cold, but it's great. It builds character, I think, or at least that's what I tell myself. But we are literally at that 72 right now. So I'm matching you out for the next at least 3 days. We're both going to be in this perfect zone. But it's so great to have you on the show. And I wanted to just start out with this. Always like to talk about people's origin stories. So could you give me a little bit of how you ended up where you are at Dyno, and like how does somebody become a chief strategist when it comes to and their own shop in both illustration and design and all that fun stuff? And how do you get your mustache to do that? Because I need the tips.
I mean, we'll obviously need to start out with the important questions first, which is the mustache one,
we'll go up front,
which is mustache wax, some training, some hard work. You put little barbells on them, you have them do little pull-ups. I actually just trimmed it. It was a little bit, it was a little longer, and I was becoming a little bit too much of a cartoon of myself, but it was all that's actually, we're going to talk a little bit about branding and things like that, and that's kind of become a little part of my brand of myself.
Totally. I do it too. It's like everything from the glasses to my armbands to the things that they're just, I'm 100% with you. Like it works with humans and self-brand just as much and hard as it works with the brands that we work with. So I'm a fan.
One of the funny ones that I heard recently was social media, internet's interesting because brands are trying to act like people and people are trying to act like brands.
I'm going to steal that, but it's true. I mean, it's like that. It's
and actually relating to your shirt, I have my collection of Hawaiian shirts, and I had Aloha Friday. Normally, also dealing with pop stuff, all of them have little fun hidden things. Like I have a Spider-Man Hawaiian shirt. I've got myself some Ewoks that are hidden in one of them. And so it's always fun because I also teach at Laguna College of Art and Design, and my students that see me on Fridays always like looking at my Hawaiian shirt to see what type of fun pop culture ridiculousness is in it.
I almost feel sometimes bad. I don't know why, like guilty, because I'm living in this future where I can look up like Hawaiian shirts and get a like plethora of really killer, like hidden Ewok anything I want. A Gravity Falls Hawaiian shirt if I want to, and have it shipped to me in just a day without leaving the house. So yeah, I have a few of my own, and your Boba T-shirt now is on my list of things that.
This was definitely one of those where I got it, and I was like, yes, it's the perfect crossover. I love myself some Boba Tea. I love myself some Star Wars. It's that one guy that's gonna like this shirt. I mean, obviously, probably they made enough of them, but yeah. But anyways, getting back to your first question, I was not bitten by a radioactive, pencil or something like that. It's actually funny, in our website, we have "in the beginning." We have as our intro, and
perfect.
And talking about this idea that we live in a global economy, we live in a world where you can get everything super easy, you can get stuff for cheap, but it's that balance of how do you actually create something that's meaningful, bridge those gaps, bring things to another level. It's not just making a pretty picture. It's about evolving relationships, building a deeper connection between products and customers. The people that we work with, they're our partners, they're our friends. And from those foundational relationships, we build what the look and feel of these brands that we work with are. For myself, I was a 1990s kid, and woke up, had my Saturday morning cartoons, had, all my just plastic toys and Legos, and I still have Legos behind me, and, all those things. And so that idea of art and those type of things was always around me. I grew up with a family that ran a screen printing shop, and so at an early age, I was doing screen printing, and then going through in third grade with a family friend, James DeRosso, who's actually an amazing artist. We made a Ninja Turtles costume made a paper mache with like a chicken wire core Ninja Turtles costume, like with the shell, shower cap for my shiny turtle head and all that fun stuff. And so that type of creativity has been throughout my whole life, and it's gone in different directions. Some of the best jobs I've had are things that are not even necessarily that exciting, of making planners or doing stuff for commercial real estate. So a lot of times I remember that it's one for the meal, one for the real. It's one thing where, you're going to make the money, you're going to do something and it's going to solve a problem, and then you're going to do something that's exciting and looks cool.
Yeah. I mean, I can't agree with you more. And for me, I'm assuming here, which could get me into trouble, but for me too, when picking clients and working with different clients or jobs, whenever I get involved, no matter how kind of on the outside, let's say boring, if it's a B2B or how drab the industry is, like I always have to find something. I always have to find that super interesting thing for me, or I'm toast. Like personally, this is me on a personal level. Like I can't unless I can find that thing to get like super hyper focused on, and that makes it exciting for me. Like it's a gonzo project. So that's what I always am like. Hey, there's always something interesting. There's always something interesting in all of whatever project we're doing. I say this, sometimes there's not, and then
you got to play that game. You have to literally. I mean, at least for me, it has to have a little bit of that game to it, where when you're laying out uh, a mall for a commercial real estate project, you're going to see how many Chick-fil-A's are in the mall or something like that, or see if you can get everything to line up in a nice way, or just playing these little mental games with yourself where you're trying to beat your own high score, quote unquote. Because if you don't, just as you're saying, you're going to be bored, and it's not
hard to make like interesting, cool stuff when you're bored. Just like it's tough. And then as a job, when it's your job, it makes it even harder because then it's like I can't necessarily choose when that inspiration hits me. Yeah. I have to sit down and do it. Can we talk about logos? Because I know it's not what a brand is, right? I come from that education, the big ideas, and the brand is everything, right? The brand is all the things put together and mushed together. That's a memory, let's say. But a logo is still the thing. It's still incredibly. It is your essence. It is your image. It is kind of like your mark out there into the world. I'd love to hear your thoughts on why logo design is so like crucial and important to a company. And then we're going to talk about like different to newer companies versus like in startups versus like established.
And I mean, you were kind of circling around there. In my mind, a logo is a signature. It's the company or brand or whatever. It's their signature. And maybe as a person, we spend a lot of time and we really craft our signature, or just kind of our personality of being hard and sloppy or something like that comes through with the signature. And that comes with a brand. So what are you trying to portray? Everything has, pardon me while I use some highfalutin words, everything has cultural capital. And so actually we're very logical to your world and also what
I'm in.
Everything has some sort of weight or some sort of memory or some sort of connection to it. And so if you see it, so let's use, the pop marketing logo. If we're using this nature of neon, if we're using this nature of these bold letters, it's a little bit of reference and pulling from this feeling of old school arcades. And then, you have your kind of more kinetic script font, which is a little representation of some of that 80s, hand-done typography. So it's got, but also it's not done in the exact way of that. It's still got a little bit of a modern twist. It's got that modern feel to it. So it's giving you that sense of nostalgia and drawing from that past information and bringing you to now. For ourselves with Dyno Creative, I mean, ours is a triceratops. It's a protector of kind of the overall group. But it was actually interesting because we kind of treat our brand a lot like a action sports brand. So when you see a lot of action sports brands, they'll kind of play with their logo, even like Nike and things like that. And they'll use it as a framework to be able to do other things with. It's not always the same typography. It's not always that same element. It's maybe the same theme or the overarching concept with it. But what it comes down to is it's a distilling of an overarching idea. And so how do you say, okay, this thing is a branding company or a company that sells happiness, or it's somebody who that the opportunity of infinite possibilities is part of their brand. When you look at the Disney D, you can recognize that particular Disney D, and you put all of the weight of Disneyland and all the experiences and everything that is tied to it into that. But that D by itself means relatively nothing. And so that's where it ties back to the brand and all that important stuff. You can see almost anything written in the Star Wars font, and you will immediately assign that thing to kind of being Star Wars-ish. I saw a shirt the other day when I was at Disneyland, and it just said "pew pew pew" in that Star Wars font, and I was like, I get it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, and the people who get it. Right. Yeah. The people in the club or the people in that understand that kind of, and that's kind of a part of it as well, is like most of the shirts and things that I wear to put myself out there have those references and those points in it so that my people get it. Yep. There might be 3 of them. Like you just said, there's like a market of 1 for a Boba T-shirt, but it's like, it's for that to represent myself. Yep. So it's the same thing as in representing. That's what a brand does, right? Like that's what a logo does and an idea does. It represents all that stuff.
One of the interesting things. So I worked at a comic book store when I was younger.
God, I always wanted to work at a comic book store. That was just like that and a video store, right? Like that back in our day. Like it was like that old time video, which I did get to work at, which was pretty rad. But the comic store, tell me about.
It was super. It was the best like high school, college job, but also the worst because it was a comic book store. And then they had another sister store that was a head shop. And then they had another sister store that was a record CD shop.
Like the perfect trifecta of that time.
So the danger is I like legitimately had to be like, all right, this money's going in the bank account because it would just circle its way back through. It'd be like, okay, here's my check. Here you go. Like, I'm going to just take my money that I just earned and dump it right back into the place where I worked it from. But like
the ultimate trick. I mean, they might as well have just given you little tokens for payment.
Pretty much.
Right.
But one of the interesting things, and one of the things I think is really valuable and can go in different directions, and especially you've seen a lot. I've seen a lot more growth of it as time has moved forward. But back in the day, Dungeons and Dragons comic books, a lot of these different things that are very popular now were, subcultures or things like that. And then not only that, they were, because a lot of times the people in those groups were attacked for whatever reason, for being nerdy or blah, 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 blah. They then had to feel that they had to gatekeep their community.
Yeah.
And prevent other people from coming in. And sometimes they would talk down to others. And, now you've seen that within the average Redditor. Well, I'll get tons of hate messages there. But, like, I think it's really, really important to build a welcoming community and to help people understand that it's your community, but you should try to bring people into your community. And it's for the one person that loves Boba and Star Wars. But now maybe you can connect with somebody that's like, oh, I love Boba. I don't really know much about Star Wars, or those type of different little crossovers in places and building that type of excitement, rather than watching the movie and going, excuse me, like, actually, it's this way in the comic book or something like that, which I don't think it's constructive. I think it's much better to be an active, positive community member than a destructive, gatekeeping community member.
Yeah, and we could talk about this all day, but it really comes down to, you know, when that idea of that toxic fandom, and here's what helps me always is understanding. I try not to judge. I try to understand, like you just broke it down, the reason why there's so much protection and kind of, you know, like walled off, and by the words of J.R.R. Tolkien, that's the Bible, and there shalt not be anything, you know, beyond that, is that idea of people that really don't like change and are scared of change, and people that are very open to change, and how, you know, back 20 years ago, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, you weren't heralded as cool guy. You know, you had to be kind of protective of that thing. And I think you're right. We're seeing a lot of that. It may not be the intent to feel toxic, but I think you see a lot of that coming from that. But these newer generations talk about anime fandoms and seeing these really open fandoms that I get to run into doing this podcast and doing my job. It is, it's nice to see the direction that this more open fandom that you talk about is coming from. But then, God, sometimes I'm so glad that I'm not in charge of these brands, because like you can't do anything right, because there's so many different brains and minds that you're trying to appease, that it just boggles my mind. How much power do you give to the fans, and how much do you keep for your own creativity, where you're just like fan servicing all the time, which sometimes I enjoy, and then how much is it like, no, this is my interpretation, I am moving this into this direction. That's something I think about a whole lot, and glad that I don't have to make the decisions on which direction, you know, Marvel goes into. Right? Like that is, but I'm always just gracious, because I am a kid who dreamt of maybe no way will there ever be an X-Men movie or you know, there'll never be any of this kind of stuff. So I'm just sitting here. I'll watch anything and be appreciative of the fact that I'm seeing a character that I never thought I'd ever see anywhere, you know, in a $100 million movie. So that's where I'm coming from. When it comes to logos, the importance of a logo for, like, say, a startup, when you're working with a startup, right, and they're building the essence of something new or fresh, or maybe they had something that was kind of crappy, or they were just kind of bringing up, what is kind of like how do you treat that differently than, say, a brand that comes in who has that established brand? How do you, as a strategist especially, because you've been peppering in those words where I know your strategy, because it's like, okay, I have to understand what your brand is about and what you represent, and not only your product, but, you know, your DNA, to understand how we're going to make you a logo that represents your signature. How does that work? Startups are on, like I say, lots about my fun of working with startups. I love them. They're just different. But like, how does logo design go into that? Where does it start when you're starting kind of the clay from zero?
Well, I think a good way to kind of think about all this that we're talking about is you used the phrase DNA and building blocks. And if somebody thinks and comes to me and says, I need a logo, I'm going to not challenge them, but I'm going to come and I'm going to say, okay, well, that exists out here. And we're working on putting out a blog series right now, kind of breaking some of this down. But that exists kind of if we're to think of a solar system, a logo is kind of like Earth or Mars. we're not the closest thing to the sun. We're not the farthest thing away. But the sun is your brand vision, is that core, that essence, the thing that everything else feeds off of. And so when you think of a compelling brand vision, it's a foundation which everything else is built upon. It's the shapes your brand identity. It forms your decision making. It informs your future directions. And so some of the things that you want to think about when you're building that foundation, it should have guidance and the alignment of your core values. It should be inspiration and motivational. It should have a differentiator. It should connect your customers, and it should lead you towards long-term success.
Yep.
The challenge is exactly as we're saying, somebody might be like, but I need a logo. And it's like,
yeah, I have a checklist and it says, get a logo made. And
right.
Yeah.
And so exactly as you're talking about, a lot of times what I see is when we're trying to evolve that brand, moving from somebody who might have existed for a while, but now they're coming up to a problem and they want to evolve their brand and they want to bring themselves to the next level. They might have a logo. They might have marketing materials. They might have a website. They might have a lot of these things, but I'll make weird references, but do you see the Lego movie?
Yes.
It was great. It's surprisingly amazing.
One of the best surprises. The second one, they couldn't quite grab the magic back, but first Lego movie, like I was like, holy crap, yes.
Like, yeah. And so like when all the characters are trying to build on their own and trying to do all these different things, and then they end up with a sinking ship. And it's when you do a good job of building a solid foundation, if you're working together and all these pieces are forming something bigger than the individual nature of itself, that's when you can build a solid logo. But you cannot start having a logo that's successful until you have, your brand. You have your brand vision, you have your mission, you have your values, you have your brand strategy, you have your visual strategy, and you have your brand story. All of those things I just mentioned is what a logo is built upon. And that is the signature of all of those things. And then going out from there is that illustration, collateral, website, marketing, content writing, copywriting, blogs, social media, advertising, email marketing, and SEO, ranking yourself on websites and on Google and things like that. But that's the thing. It's not. So that bridge that I see a lot of times is somebody who's brand new. We have that opportunity to really dive into them, really understand it, and then build a mark that has all of the things after we've established their brand vision, after we've established their brand mission, all these different concepts, and built it out. And then we build a logo on top of that.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we're dealing with evolving a brand, it is taking those assets and those collateral and those type of things that they've already built and go, okay, how did you get here? And then having to reverse engineer, the gears on the bicycle.
What's important here?
Yeah.
Like what was the thinking behind here? What are the, sacred cows of this that we wouldn't know, right? Like if there was a number in it or something like that had a huge significant meaning. And when you're evolving from something that wasn't yours or you didn't have anything to do with, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about Batman, like,
please,
like what is one of the core values of Batman? He doesn't use guns. Why doesn't he use guns?
You. I've had a long conversations of people that did not know this as a core rule, and I'm blown away with audiences where I'm like, yes, no, you're not a gun user unless a certain director decides to give them to making guns, but we won't discuss.
Neither here nor there. But like, he doesn't use guns because, you know, his family was killed by a gun, and that, you know, and the same reason why bats scare me, Alfred. And I want to bring that same fear to my, to the, you know, the people that are bringing fear to this city. And, you know, it's this nature of, okay, I've identified these core values that are important to me. I'm Bruce Wayne. And so then I'm going to create a symbol to represent these things. And, you know, just like in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, he's talking on the plane and he's saying like, hey, it's not just, you know, yeah, I can do so much as a man, but once I become a symbol, I can be so much more for the city. Now, whatever we can argue about the fact of a crazy billionaire going and just going and beating up people rather than being philanthropic, that is neither here nor there.
No, yes, we're talking on yours. It's like once I become an idea, right? Once that symbol becomes an idea, then it becomes more powerful, right? Then it becomes something that other people can grab onto, and it becomes something that I can attach to my identity. Just like the brands I'm literally wearing right now. That's why I choose Nike over Adidas or anything like that, is because they become latched on. Those symbols become latched onto my personal, my identity, right? Exactly. Like myself. And that's what you're looking for whenever, even a new brand, is like things that will do that.
You know, when you're building a Dungeons and Dragons character, what is your alignment? What are those core tenets that your character is going to build off of? And so, you know, it's why, how, what? Why does your brand exist? How is your brand going to do the things it's going to do? And then what is the actual thing that your company is making or your brand is selling? Notice I didn't talk about saying I make comic books and then they're made on paper. And yeah, we also have superheroes, or we have the idea of dreams. Like, you want to sell it from the middle, from the core concept, from that brand vision, from that idea, and then build your way out. So, Joe, let me ask you a question.
Please.
What would you say your brand vision is for pop marketing?
Yeah, I would say mine is to inspire, inspire others to make less boring content, right? To get away from the world of thinking inside the thing of a 30-second spot, which still exists, of people wanting that perfection or whatever it is, and start understanding how to integrate and draft. I always call it I'm not stealing from culture. I'm drafting from pop culture to get a message across better, right? Or to even get an idea better understood, or make a reference inside the room whenever I'm trying to sell an idea into a client or whatever that may be. But to utilize the power of pop culture, right? To inspire folks. So
let me ask another interesting question. The other one, which very much deals with these core values and this brand vision and a lot of these things. And one of the things that I oftentimes see that's overlooked, and we actually just drafted ours because I was like, oh yeah, we've had the notion, but we haven't put it down in paper. What would you consider your brand promise?
It's extremely strange because I am working with a speaking group right now on Keynote and stuff like that. And her thing is, what's your promise? Yeah. And guess what? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And right now, literally this week, I am working on like, what's that promise? Because what it does is it allows me to, what problem am I solving? Mm-hmm. What am I doing for you? Not just about what I want to do, but what's like the promise that if you utilize me or if I'm there, what's the handshake, that I'm going to, what's that? I don't know it.
That's okay.
But you're totally, speaking the language. What did brands say to you whenever you ask them, what's your promise?
They say, huh?
Exactly. Come on.
And I say, okay, well, what's your brand vision? If we've established your brand vision, your promise should be a natural extension of that brand vision. It should embody your core values and reflect your ultimate purpose. And then it should help differentiate your brand from your competition or other brand
positioning. Yeah, like where do you sit in if there's a competitive set? Like
exactly.
Why us versus somebody else?
And then hopefully you can try to keep it simple and clear and understandable. It should be easy to understand. It should avoid like having highfalutin jargonous words. And then you should be able to demonstrate possibly how you will deliver on this promise. It's all about living up to it. It's not just about saying it.
It's proof.
Yeah.
Like prove it. Especially today. Back in the day, we used to be able to just get away with just saying a lot of stuff in advertising, and what I talk about a lot is now it's like, you got, what's your actions? What are your proof? People are going to want more than you just to say my soap's way better.
Right. And so like we start with, here at Dyno Creative, we're all about camaraderie. We pledge to be your trusty sidekick in the epic branded adventure, sparking partnership, bursting with creativity, paving the way to your brand's evolution. We roll up our sleeves to craft unique identities that makes your business pop, all while serving zestful solutions which hook your audience, while every step of the way leaping forward, bring your brand towards a more authentic, brilliant self, and we promise to have a good time along the way.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down so I can just take your. I know I won't. I'm going to use it for inspiration. It's cool though. But again, also what I've found with you, how hard is it? How hard is it? It's like cobbler's shoes. I've been in enough agencies. I've done this enough times where I'm like, I will get to something. I'll be like, well, that's exactly what I would have told the client. Like I would have told them like 2 years ago, do this. And for some reason, I don't eat my own dog food, or eat your own medicine. So do you find it tough to do it whenever it's your baby?
You have to treat yourself like a client.
Yes.
You have to really treat yourself like a client. You need to go and take that time and, whenever we finish a project, we go and we'll make a case study for that project. That is part of the process.
Yes.
Yes, the client isn't paying us for that, but we have check boxes that we have to fill out to do that. And just as we're, building these blogs and these type of things, and I talk about it all the time, but one of the best books that I had read that really kind of changed my thought process on it was called The E-Myth Revisited, which deals with the idea of starting in the middle. Again, a lot of these things start in the middle of having this entrepreneurial self, this managerial self, and this technician self. And you go from the inside out. You start with the entrepreneur, you go to the manager, and then you build out to the technician. And exactly what we're talking about, all this stuff with building brands exists within this entrepreneurial self. And so that's the big thing. We can't just be sitting here and making the thing. I can't just be sitting here and making the logos for other clients. I need to be sitting here and investing the time into my own brand. making sure I have my core values, making sure that I have all these things, and then checking against it. I'm not here hanging out with you because I randomly picked a number out of a hat. If you can't tell, I'm super into the things that you're into. Like
right.
It's you align yes, it's a competitive marketplace, but really it's more about aligning yourself with the people that are passionate in the way that you're passionate.
Yep. And in the competitive thing has so been ingrained over years of agency, of being in knife fights, of, new business. And that's why I had to get out of that certain kind of world and start looking at it more of there is plenty of market out there. There's plenty. This idea of, the fight to that bottom. It's just, you have to find your people, right? You have to find those that and it sounds like that's the direction you go to, because I'll say from what you've said, when you're like, well, I would love to make logos. I'd love to illustrate. I'd love to do these things, but I need to work on our voice and our logo and who we are and our, thought leadership, because you just talked about somebody coming in and saying, I need a logo. And then you coming in and saying, let's start over, and I'm going to need to, you're going to need to sell you into and help you understand that you need a lot more than that. And in order to get you to believe and to trust me in that, take me to that journey, then you need to be confident, and you need to have a spread of case studies and to kind of show what kind of clients you want. Because I assume you don't take every client. Like, it's like, hey, if you need just a logo, hey, you know what? And you have this kind of budget, Fiverr is right over here, and you can get 100 versions and pick your favorite, and that is fine and dandy. But if you want something that's going to last, and you believe what I believe, and you want something with staying power, that's what you sell.
Exactly.
That's what you bring in.
And that's really what it comes down to. It's the idea that we are. The first question a lot of times I ask people when we're going to have a kickoff meeting, we're going to start the conversation, when I'm getting to know a client, is, what are the biggest problems you're facing right now? I don't say to them, hey, what's your brand mission? What's your brand values?
Right.
Going through my language, I want them to explain in their language, hey, what are you struggling with right now? And they might be saying, hey, we're just not getting as many sales as we need. Okay. So you're not getting as many sales right now. Do people actually know what you're selling? Are you being a Denny's when you need to actually just be a Chipotle and sell one thing? Are you not even selling? Like, I was just talking to a brand the other day, and they were concerned about competing with big box stores because they were a small retailer. But I reminded them, hey, you're not actually selling dog food. You're selling the care and the nutrition for your dogs, for these dogs. You're the consultant for these pet owners. And so how do we let them know that? How do we let them know that you're going to be the trusted advisor when it comes to, your pet's health? You don't go just to a doctor to be like, hey, I need this type of, medicine. They assess your symptoms.
Right.
And then they make a diagnosis and they give you a solution to solve that problem. That's what we're about. That's what I feel is more constructive.
Okay, this is great conversation, and my favorites just go completely where they go. So my outline's toast, and it's awesome. But I will ask this: as our time winds down a bit, I have to get a few things out of you, just out of your brain, just thoughts about certain things when it comes to logo redesigns of last few years. Or is there any like that stand out to you that you were like, that's a killer redesign? That is a nice redesign logo. And is there any out there where you're like, well, I don't know what they were thinking?
Well, so and actually kind of comes back to some of our earlier conversation of the idea of, for me, a lot of times it's a brand redesign. Like, cool, that's aesthetically a nice looking logo, neato.
But what's behind it? And that, especially the bigger brands, trust me, I've gotten my hands on the decks. That's my favorite thing, is to get my hands from somebody who built the 200 slide Pepsi deck of like what led to this. The logo is not the main, it's not the thing, but is there anybody that you feel like essenced that in the right way to reach to a good evolution?
Well, so it's really funny. I have a handful of friends that work at Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And
drive-through or just up a little further?
They work at the design agency.
I had some buddies at the drive back in the day.
That was always funny. Actually, I helped them out for a little bit, and they were like, I would be like, hey, I'm working at Taco Bell, and they're like, that's nice, I guess. kind of a weird step down from working at larger agencies, but
I love it.
Whatever makes you happy. And yeah, they haven't necessarily updated their logo in a while, but they're constantly refining and evolving their brand.
They are.
And speaking the voice. One of the ones that kind of within that same fast food marketplace that I think did a fantastic job is Burger King. I mean, Burger King's they've essentially gone to their 80s, 90s back to that 80s, 90s logo.
Went back.
They've improved their overall typography and things like that, but they've refined it. They're going back to their core values. They're coming back to why do they exist. And it's not so much that they are, oh, here's a really cool looking logo. It's pretty much what they had back in the day. But it's the message and it's a story of what it is. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of one that I've seen recently, and I was like, ooh, that's really cool looking.
Well, listen, on the Burger King one too, and I've worked with Dairy Queen in my past life, right? And like, it's funny that 10 years ago and 15 years ago, brands were so petrified about their past. They wanted to be modern.
Yeah.
So they and you see these reciprocal shifts, right? Like the older we get. And so they're like, take everything old and it's got to look modern, and we need modern this, and it needs to zing and everything. And then you're like, well, but you have so much equity in, like, whenever somebody thinks about Dairy Queen, they're thinking about their childhood summers and their, what summer is all about, and all these things that you don't really want to, that you don't even think about losing, when all you're thinking about is modernizing, right? And now I love this swing back to this place of like, how much brand essence did we already did we have, and why were we leaving it why are we always leaving it on the ground? It was the pile of gold was right there in front of us the whole time, and we were just new. And I think Burger King did a great job of giving us what us maybe older millennials, young Gen Xers would expect from that, but also this cool kind of retro kind of push that the younger generation can grab onto too.
Yeah, and that same thing actually with Pepsi is they had modernized their logo so much, and there was and now they've circled back around and pretty much gone back to that classic look that they had before. And but it's using modern sensibilities and now the understanding of modern user interface and these type of things, which again, all this different stuff that we talk about, we live in a postmodern world where it's just building on everything of the past. And how do we just keep refining while not throwing the baby out with the bathwater?
Yeah. I always say too, it's like at some point nostalgia is going to run out. I don't say this. Adam Forsyth, my good friend, always was like, "What happens when nostalgia runs out?" Because this generation, especially with TikTok, treats everything as aesthetics. Like it's all it's like it's just a palette. Like I can pick a 70s vibe of a filter, and I can pick this, and I can pick that, and they are just this mash. I can mash up and play with all these magical aesthetics and different things from everywhere and every time. So when does it just kind of probably runs out with us, the Saturday morning cartoon group, more so. But it's always an interesting question to me, and I find it fascinating to go on to TikTok or go into different places and see people mashing things up and giving feels to eras they weren't even alive during, and doing killer synth music when they never really played a real synthesizer, before. It's amazing. So cool. Got that out of the way. Next is quick. Let's talk real quickly about the evolution. You do a lot of like wicked. You do some work with Amazon. You do a lot of like those wicked illustrative prints that everybody knows. I got kind of introduced the Mondo world, right? And vinyls, A24s, and different things. But you have just this work. If you go on the Dyno website, that's just this killer work of these prints that I think we've all kind of seen, pop culture of movies and TV and whatever those things are. Talk a little bit about like the difference between we all know the importance of a movie poster back in the day. The importance of a trailer, and a trailer is like the emotion. It's not, like they shouldn't be thinking at all. They should just be like, oh God, I want that, like that's kind of feeling. I want to go to that movie. What is your work in illustration and print? How have you started doing that? Because it's awesome. And what do your illustrators, what do they just start with something that's cool of what they think the movie represents? Like, how does that work?
Well, so illustration, that exists as if we're using this solar system type concept, it's kind of sitting out there, a little bit past Jupiter, where it's building on everything else that exists, but it's not, you have to have your logo. You need to have, a lot of these different elements. It's an extension of this. It kind of sits in the same line as like your website and your collateral and stuff like that. And then those things feed in to marketing. Because an illustration then normally is a marketing piece in some way, or illustrations are used as part of marketing. So these illustrated movie posters, or we can't talk about this without giving respect to Drew Struzan, and father of movie posters. If you're listening to this and you don't know who that is, stop what you're doing. Go look his name.
Rabbit hole.
Go down the rabbit hole. Made. You think of a classic movie that you loved in the 80s, 70s, 80s, or early 90s. Like, he probably did the poster for it. And, him and John Williams, like, just making hot fire all the time. But we had that passion and this love for this nature of pop culture as well as making cool imagery. And we wanted to show our love for that in this way and to, in a way, memorialize these things. They're not dead, but it's here's my representation. Here's the thing that I love of that. And so, you go to a movie and then you're like, man, I really want to remember how awesome that experience was. Personally, I wish that a lot of movie posters were not just a bunch of floating heads photoshopped together.
That's why I always love the global stuff. When it starts getting really funky, like the other movie posters from other places, right? Like I have a lot of the T-shirts and our posters of like the Japanese version or the French version of that, because they'll get a lot more.
Yeah,
it's a lot more funky of like what the movie is about versus just the, like what movie star goes first in the, got to have Chris Pratt as big as humanly possible.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's the thing. It's how do you tell that story with a single image?
Yeah.
Which is, I just think, super cool. And I love when people are able to do that in their own respect. And we've hopefully been able to, capture some of those emotions and those feelings and, again, just as you're talking about different groups, going and pulling elements from different places, but we might be drawing a composition from a Renaissance painting as well as bringing in pop culture characters from, Marvel or something like that. And you're not necessarily going to recognize it. You might recognize a character, but you might not recognize the layout. And that's why it's, I think, so important to do master studies to understand all this history that goes into the past.
Yeah, and there's like more onions to peel I love that about just any piece of art or anything is like the more you know, the more I can be like, oh, it's got a bunch of it's cool just to watch if I'm an idiot.
Right.
If I'm just an idiot, I'm enjoying this. But once I start seeing, peeling those parts, like aesthetically, the Midsummer piece is just killer. But if you've seen the movie and you understand more and you get into it, like layer by layer, you can get more into it. And now I have to get I have to find that Tron print for my buddy who is like a Tron legacy. He's a Tron head. So I have to, I must get that for him. So, okay, we're reaching the very end, and I know, I'm sorry, it's going to be like quick, but I have to have your thoughts, because especially in this world of all these things, quick thoughts on like, this is that world, metaverse and NFTs, what were those? But for artists and NFTs and things like that, what is your quick thought of, is this dead for artists as a thing? Do you see a future in this? Did you mess around with it at all whenever it started to come out?
It's, my feeling is, and whatever, people can do what they will, but I really liked the core idea of it. I really like the idea that you could have artwork that could be original pieces that was digital. That concept sounds super cool. Really like that idea.
Me too. And I love the artist being able to get something out of a piece that maybe they sold it for $10 and then becomes $1 million, but later on they can get a piece of something that they did, and that they put work into. I love those ideas. There's just a lot of other stuff.
And I grew up collecting comic book cards, like, that are worth nothing.
God, don't even.
Like, and magic cards, blah, 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 blah. But like, that's not what it's about. Now, it quickly de-evolved away from that, and it definitely separated itself from the artist. and that's a lot of times the challenges with when things are put into the. Sometimes people are lame, and
hey, I always call it the eye of Mordor. It's like try to keep out of the eye, try to keep as undercover as you possibly can for as long as you can, because once money, once that eye of Mordor hits you, like it starts to get lame really fast,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I think that's what that happened with that too. Another one, the 3D space, the AR space, right? There's a lot to speak to there, but do you find the interest in design and illustration and whenever 2D is not the the next extent is, in a 3D space when you have another axis to play with, what do you feel about the future of that?
I mean, I think the ability, and I teach at Laguna College of Art and Design, and we're thinking a lot about this idea of AR, augmented reality, not so much, putting on your goggles and escaping to another world, but I think it's super cool when whatever you're using a phone, maybe we end up having glasses or something like that. But this nature where you can find out more about something or you can experience something in a different way by having this additional information or look and feel of it. I think that's super cool. I think some of the theme parks and a lot of places like that, they do a fantastic job of putting this thing out there. I mean, it comes back to LARPing. The Star Wars Hotel would not exist without LARPing.
Nope. It would not. Just the idea of an really experiential, you walk in and people are in character. And so without LARPing and Renfests and the nerdiest, and LARPing is on the spectrum of nerd level. LARPing was beyond, right? LARPing was there. And personally, big love of lots of LARPing, but boy, you wouldn't want just a normal normie to walk into a Vampire the Masquerade, LARP session just off the whim.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Right, what is happening?
This is bad news."
But now somebody can just walk into Star Wars land, and it's not weird. While people are walking around with their magic band and going and hunting for bounties. That is LARPing at its purest sense. It's just in a different, more accessible coat.
It's cool. And Meow Wolf, if you've been to any of those,
cool.
I hit LA, or I hit Las Vegas recently, and then had a buddy take me through Denver, and it's just like heaven. Because it's just it doesn't have the Disney shine. Right. It's these are artists that literally are taking old cassette tapes and melting stuff together. And it's just, I believe that experiential stuff I want to continue to see, whether it has glasses and technology involved or not. I think those experiences in the real world, not escaping into Wall-E world, we're right in the same zone. And the last thing I'm going to ask you, of course, when we have no time, is what is your thoughts on AI?
Okay.
Right. And not, I can't get all your thoughts, but are you one to say, hey, who cares? This is great. It'll give more people access? Or are you there to say, hey, we just got to really tighten down the latches of where this thing can get its inspiration from and its styles, from, because I've seen it's basically copy and steal styles of somebody who's taken a lifetime.
The way that Midjourney and the way that Stable Diffusion has gotten their data is just straight up. It's immoral. It's immoral. Yep. It is not illegal, but it is amoral. And so, they made choices, and the way that they have done it is it's not moral. Now, the way that Adobe is doing it with Firefly,
dude.
Now,
I have not been jumped on it yet, but like I watched plenty of videos, and I'm going to be jumping on it. Like for somebody like me, like I'm like, this allows me access to a lot of things that I just wouldn't be able to do a lot faster and be more efficient with. It seems pretty cool.
And so, it's kind of the difference between Napster and Apple Music. Like,
yeah,
it's like, hey, these things can still exist, but is one one is the right way to do something, one is the illegal or amoral way to do something. So that's my very, very top end, and I could literally spend the rest of the day talking on that.
Lots of I that's why I saved it to the end, because it's a juicy way to get you back on sometime soon to talk about it, because it's a matter of time before it continues to us to see. Just watching I really love how you put it may be legal, but the choices that were made to bypass things in a very specific way, so it would be legal, but they knew what they were doing. And so it is waiting and putting trust in the fact that we need to put some fences around this stuff. And that's always with new technology, the crazy cool shit. We always gotta put some guide rails around it to make sure it's doing right. But I'm watching a lot of different spaces, and the Adobe part I'm really excited to jump into. And I'll tell you this, what a great, perfect, super matchup guest for the Pop Marketing Podcast. You've been like an absolute joy to talk to, and I feel like we could just pretty much keep going all day. I wish that was possible, but it doesn't pay a whole lot. We'll figure that out. But it was great to chat with you. Where can people find you online?
So you can find us, just go straight online to dynocreative.com, DYNO. Or you can find us on Instagram, same thing, Dyno Creative. Or you can see a lot of, we talk a lot about this foundational stuff. You can get a little peek under the hood, and you can check out our inspiration on our Pinterest board.
Oh, cool.
And then you can also see some of our thought processes and things like this, and probably check out when this podcast becomes live on our blogs and podcast area on our website.
Yeah, and your blog looks great, and it's like a lot of fundamental stuff, like what you believe. I would definitely say that. And gang, I'm telling you, there are some deals on this. There is some like crazy deals for skate decks and tees, and this Tron poster, which I'm picking up too, on their merch. I love a good merch place. Like that's where I'm like, you get to put all those little pieces, illustration and everything together to say, see what we mean? Once you have all these pieces, this is kind of cool shit like we can easily like put together and make. So, hey, it was, like I said, thanks for giving me and our audience the time today, because I know it's not easy to talk about what you do and put it through such an awesome pop culture lens. Hope you have an awesome rest of your week, and hope to have you on again soon.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time.